And we are recording once again.
Welcome back to another episode of
Mind games.
Mind Games.
Did you forget?
No, I wanted to
Oh,
get you involved in that.
Okay. You were checking me.
Checking.
Yeah.
Who knows what I remember and what I forget. But what we are going to talk about today, we've been talking about current events and how those things affect us and how to get our head straight. But what we're going to do, we're changing gears. We're going to try to get back to our purpose. And in doing that, we're going to talk about, we come to places in life, circumstances. Sometimes life hands you loss. Sometimes life brings about change. Where do you go from here? New direction. Whether that new direction, could include a lot of things, right, Clay?
Yeah. We want to stick with the basics of hard questions and the truth about ourselves and reality kind of thing. But this, we have a new normal. And not getting on. Everybody's sick of the coronavirus, I do believe, issues, and we're not going to really focus on that. But all in all, it's a part of reality. And so now we're, like you said, we're at a new phase in life, if you want to call it. A lot of people have been affected. So now what do we do? What direction do we go? How do we combine where we need to be based on where we are and what has happened and where we were? A lot of people are affected now. There's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of undetermined feelings, a lot of confusion, and a lot of people are worried, and this can cause a lot of different things, a lot of mental issues. It can cause people to fall where they, me and you had talked about it and about doing some mental health roundtables, and one of mine, as
And those are coming.
Yeah, those are coming. But this can cause, addiction to come back. It can cause other stresses that people are normally dealing with, and that's kind of, what we want to focus on and how we look at those, how we deal with that, how we deal with the relationships and other people with this new normal, So I think it's a good topic.
Carrie, you're out there a lot. You visit with a lot of people in business. You're meeting a lot of people. What's the mindset you're finding of people? Do you feel like people are feeling hopeless?
I don't think hopeless is really an issue. It's more of people are getting to that point where probably enough of behind the scenes fighting and arguing with the people in the house because they're stuck, and people that the people obviously that I'm seeing in the workforce aren't at home, but they got to go home to the people that have been stuck in the house all day, and kids are bouncing off the walls and jumping on the bed and hanging from chandeliers. I think most people have got about enough of it mentally. I feel like there was an old Navy SEAL that said, when you've gone as far as you can, that's only like 80% of what your fuel tank has. So there's another 20% in reserve. So even though we're to that point, at least we feel like we're there. I think we still got some left in the tank. And it's just what we fill and feed our head with.
Yeah. And where we are now, it's not any different than, as a general rule, any loss, any major change, when things are going to be different going forward, you always have to stop and ask yourself a few questions, because there is the human desire to protect what was or what is. And that desire is to say, I'm supposed to be doing what I've been doing, and normal is for me to keep doing what I've been doing. But sometimes life brings change, and it'll be a crisis in life when we have an identity crisis. If I know who I am, and I'm true to who I am, who I was created to be, then situations change, but a crisis never changes my path or my journey. It's a different situation. It's something different to walk through, but I'm still the same person. I'm still doing the same things I've always done. But when my focus in my life is built on what I do instead of who I am, then I'm at a crisis. And we don't want that to happen to people.
Yeah, I like what you said. I never heard you say that before. I like that. You know what I mean? When you think you're at the end, you've got 20% left to go. You're not at the end. It's just based on perspective. And you're right, Brian, comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
We're out of our comfort zone. There's no doubt about it. We're out of our comfort zone. And being out of our comfort zone, and just kind of combining what y'all both said, what are we feeding ourselves? You know, what are we telling ourselves? How are we feeling about it? And based on that, what's our approach to that? What are we doing to counteract that? You know, the new normal is different. Things are changing, and we have to adapt, if you will, to a certain extent. So, and like you said, some people are losing a lot, you know, and you know, I pray that doesn't happen, but it's happening. And if your identity, if who you are is based on what you have, and you lose that, who are you?
Yeah.
And
You've lost everything.
You've lost everything. You've even lost who you are, and that creates a crisis in the mind. It's a mental crisis, and that can create stress. That can create, I mean, your world just falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big issue. You know, so exactly, identity. You know, who are we? You know, who are we? Who do we need to be if we're not, you know, where we're supposed to be as far as who we think we are?
Yeah, it's getting back to some very ground level biblical principles, and that is that our identity is found in who God created us to be. And my behavior should follow my identity rather than getting an identity from behavior. I can go and I can look at an example in the Bible right away. One comes to mind, the prodigal son. He found himself eating with pigs. Well, that didn't make him a pig. And what happened with him is he realized, wait a minute, this is not who I am. Okay, I've been going in the wrong direction with my life all along, and I had to come to a place to waken up to that and reevaluate who I am. Because when I reevaluate who I am, then I go back and I can get back to where I belong, and I can get back to doing what I'm supposed to be doing, instead of, well, you know, this is where life brought me, so this must be who I am. No, that's not the case at all. I am who I always was. I'm who God created me to be. And that is what is going to remind me to get my direction. And it may be a new direction for many people. Life going in a new direction. And by that, we're saying the way we live, the direction we go is based on the things we prioritize. And I think that's real important because people have all kinds of priorities. You mentioned one, things that we have. The other one is things we want to accomplish. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, who's in charge? You know, who's in charge of these things? Who's in, you know, we think we are, and we're really not in charge. Now, we're not trying to stress that you should not have goals. You should not want to provide for your family. You know, all those things are very, very important, and that's what we have to do.
Absolutely.
Of course. But we have to understand that when we, you know, what we're talking about is a loss of control. We get comfortable, and things around us, we think we control those things. Things are controllable. We're in our comfort zone. Things are manageable. And then they become unmanageable. They become out of our control. And the only two things we're in control of, and this all circles around that, the only things we're in control of is our attention and our behavior. When our environment changes, what is our intent? You know, what is our attention and what is our behavior? One dictates the other. Mm-hmm. What we pay attention to, what we feed ourselves, is going to dictate our behavior, and that all is formulated around and is expression of our identity, who we are, who we truly are, and we are not what we own. That's not who we are.
Right.
We have, you know, now we're right back to some solid truths, some absolutes, and you have to now have you have to have an absolute there. If you don't have an absolute, if it can change, then it's going to create chaos, and that's the mental problems that we have when you know, that causes stress and causes anxiety and causes you know, our thoughts to wander, and when we don't, you know, when we lose that control that those things that we think those things give us, then we're lost and we have no direction and we don't know what to do. And then small problems little problems become big problems, and then they start to cascade. And we try to look at the whole picture, and now we're talking about anxiety. We're trying to look at the whole picture and say, okay, there's no way I can accomplish this. Look, everything's falling apart. I don't have my job. You know, nobody's able to work. I'm scared of everybody. I'm scared to come in contact with people. You know what I mean? And how am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my car note? You know what I mean? What am I going to do if my job never opens back up? And all these things, when you look at them all together, man, that just looks like it's impossible to accomplish. Now I've lost the game. Now there's nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have nothing. I have nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not that's not how we're made to look at things.
Yeah. You know, several years back, a thought came to me, and I jotted it down, and I've never forgotten about it since. During a prayer time, I was awakened to the truth that if I'm not happy with nothing, I'll never be happy with anything. Because happiness doesn't come from things. Happiness has to be on the inside.
Absolutely.
And that's what God does. The Bible word is peace and joy. So if we're at a spot where we're down and out because of some loss or because of a crisis, I mean, as I speak, it happens to be this morning at 1 o'clock, my grandmother's house burnt down. Yeah. Her house burnt to the ground. She lost her car. My mother was there. She lost her truck. So everything's gone. And it would be easy in that situation to say, my whole life is gone for somebody. No, it isn't. Your things are gone. Your life isn't gone. And you are, if I am true to who God made me to be, then I'm still that person without a house, without a car, without a job, without anything else. I'm still that same person, and therefore my purpose hasn't changed. I think sometimes it sheds light on what our priorities are. If I own anything that you take it away from me, if that changes my joy, then my priorities weren't right. Now, yes, it might change my level of comfort. It might change my ability, some of my happiness. It might change my schedule, but it shouldn't change my inner joy and peace.
Absolutely.
So priorities, when we're thinking about a new direction, moving forward through a crisis, after a crisis, with loss, there's several things we need to remember. Number one, what does God say about us? Who am I, based on the Word of God? Number two, if that's who I am, why am I here? And it's certainly not to accumulate things. I like to say when you go on vacation and you check into a hotel, you don't go outside and plant pecan trees. Because you're not going to be there to eat the pecans. We're on a journey in this life, and yet we embrace it like we're going to be here to eat the pecans. We're planting permanent roots in a world that we're only temporarily going to be here in. And we need to embrace the things of God and who we are in His Word instead of embracing loss. When you embrace the loss, the anxiety, the depression, and if you just focus on, look what I lost, then you're going to feel bad. We need to learn to embrace. We need to get back to embracing the things that are pure. Don't you think, Kerry?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we do that by forming an outlook. You know, no matter what tragedy hits us, when we take God's word and we form a positive outlook, then moving forward ain't so bad. But when, you know, like you say, the instance when the house burned out, I like to picture that they, you know, in the midst of a tragedy happening, that they were in the front yard or wherever they might have been, hugging each other, going, "Thank God, you know, thank God you got out," you know, instead of, "Oh look, you know,
It's all gone.
all my stuff is gone," you know, and I'm sure that we're all human, we're going to have some of that, but I'm just saying, the first thought mindset was, "Thank God you're out," you
Right.
know, we can move forward together. We can, you know, we're good.
Life isn't over.
Life isn't over by no means, and I think we form those values and those outlooks positively when we use the Word of God and we speak with the Lord and get His message, because then we start seeing around us all the good things that are going on, and it makes your outlook even brighter. And then, you know, you get through that first day and then the next day, and then it just kind of snowballs in a positive way instead of a negative way.
It's kind of interesting that you bring that up, because I think about this when me and my wife were first married 35 years ago. We didn't have anything, okay? I mean, we were so excited when we bought a little used trailer house. that we lived in. It was 14 by 48. I mean, it was this little bitty trailer house, but we were excited. Okay. And as time, we eventually got a house, and then we remodeled that, and then we got another house and another house. The point of my story is that right now, if I had to go back to that trailer house, would I be as happy with the trailer as I was then when I had it?
And that
I
wasn't
should
even,
be.
right, and that wasn't even the important thing.
No. When I was back then, why was I so happy with it? Well, if I was happy with it then that means I should be able to be happy with it now, unless I've lost my priorities.
Exactly.
Unless that's become part of my identity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you worship? You know, what are you worshiping? What is your God, so to speak? You know, and that's kind of where we're at. We're not in control. God's in control, and he'll make a way. And a big problem, you know, there's people, your mother, your grandmother,
The ones with the tornado last night.
the ones with the tornado last night. People lose things, and it happens all the time, and it's going to continue to happen. Your mother and your grandmother are, they have faith in God, you know, and that's who they look to for comfort. They know that they're not in control.
Mm-hmm.
They know that God's in control. They know that God is watching. They have a relationship with God, so they know what their identity is. They're very comfortable in their own skin. They're very comfortable in their identity. I haven't met your grandmother, but I met your mother, and I know she's a very strong a person in Christ.
She is.
She very, very strong.
Absolutely.
And that's what gives her ability to look past what's right in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
She's able to look past the trauma. She's able to look past those things and know there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not who I am, because who I am says that things are going to get better. Who I am says that this is not the end. Who I am says that there's a way around this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way through this. And she knows that. And the only way you can know that is with that relationship. Yeah, when we come to a point to where we get our joy or we get our happiness from the things we can accumulate, the things that we can acquire, you know, our brand new toys, our jet skis, our boats, our Game Boys, our, you know what I mean, new screen TVs and all these things. And that's the only thing that our attention is in the wrong direction. It's nice to have those things. It's nice to enjoy those things. Absolutely. I enjoy my big screen TV. I do. I enjoy my nice sound system. I do enjoy it. But if I lost it, so what? You know what I mean? It didn't belong to me anyway, honestly. I was just renting it, so to speak. Nothing really belongs to us. Our identity, you know, our identity is going to reflect how we interact with our environment.
Yeah.
It's going to enter, you know, everything is about relationships. Everything is about a relationship with other people and a relationship with God, and what we think about ourselves, our own relationship, because we have a relationship with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What we think about ourselves, how we view ourselves. We all have an image, a blind image, so to speak, or a non-visual image of ourselves. In other words, if you were just all of a sudden blinded right now and you could never see your reflection again, you have an image imprinted in your mind of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
what you look like, and we have that, and our relationship with God dictates that image. It dictates that image, and it also dictates the image of our environment, how we interact in our environment, and how we interact with other people, which is basically other people. And just because we have this stuff going on, and just because things are changing, and we're definitely out of our comfort zone, most people are everybody's out of their comfort zone. Even those of us that are able to work a little bit we're still out of our comfort zone. There's no doubt about it. We're going to have we're going to have to change our comfort zone. We're going to have to adapt to the things that are coming and to the things that are changing around us. But that should not dictate our outlook. It shouldn't dictate how we relate to other people. Yes, that's changed, okay? And we have social distancing and you know, and I understand. I mean, I'm even a little fearful of people with a cough too. You know, I mean, it's natural. We're human. But it still shouldn't change how we think about other people. and how we view those relationships. There's still a way to have the proper relationships and the proper outlook of our environment. And when I say environment, I mean other people, you know what I mean, and jobs and things like that. There's still a way to view those things properly with that change in place.
Yeah. So there's no doubt God, if from wherever we are in life, when we go through change, and it should always be the case, but when we go through change, it's time to stop, reevaluate, and think about, okay, what's next? What's the new direction? And there is no doubt that following God through it is what's important. When you say, Kerry, and what are some things that come to your mind when you think about placing your faith in God and following Him in a new normal?
I mean, it's like one of the toughest things you can do is to put your faith in the Lord, but it's one of the easiest things to do. And I think accomplishing that just comes with anything else. It comes with practice. It comes with, giving Him things and realizing the outcome of how you felt during that time. When you talk, it's real easy to, oh, I just won $100,000 out of the blue. I'm going to turn this money over to God. That's not. I'm not going to say that's not real faith, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's when you turn the situations that are tough, to let go and to realize that you don't have the control. And, I mean, it's sometimes you got to start with the little things. Sometimes big tragedies happen. You got to start with something big, which is unfortunate. But the more you have that realization of letting go and saying, Lord, help me, help me through this, guide me. I can't do it alone. Unbelief bowing before Him. That's when you start giving up control. And when you start seeing the results of that, and the calmness and the things that kind of, just enter into the whole situation, keeping that going is what I see a lot of issues that Christians have, though.
Yeah.
Again, it's, I hate to say, I don't want to say form a habit, but, to be able to do it time after time, consistency, training yourself to, recognize this is a problem I can't do on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, once you're able to do that consistently, I think that's a place where we all need to be.
That's good. While you were saying that, I was sitting here thinking, I'll say this, and we're about out of time. We've kind of made a commitment to start keeping these things down to 30 minutes because we all like to talk. But I was having this thought while you were saying that. It is not hard to trust God. It is hard to trust God with my plans. That's what's hard to trust Him with. Okay? And that's where we fear and where we doubt. Because, okay, I'm going to put this in God's hands, but what I mean by that is I expect Him to do what I want. And that's where the nervous, the anxiety, the fear stays with me because I'm not sure if He's going to do what I want Him to do. Right. But we're not putting our plan in God's hand. We're putting our life in God's hand and following His plan. There's a big difference. So what God wants us to surrender to is Him and just let Him guide us through life and whatever that looks like. Yeah. We're trying so hard to hold on to things, to hold on to achievements and prosperity. That will drive us crazy. Kerry mentioned there's a peace, though, when you let go of that and you lose all worldly ambition. And you just have a godly ambition, and that is, I'm just going to follow God. My ambition is to become as much like Christ as possible. When that's my ambition, nobody can take that from me. No circumstance can take that from me. And whatever kind of house you live in, whatever kind of car you drive, whatever state you live in, however big of circle of friends you have, those things are not relevant to the truth that you can still be just as committed to God and still have the same joy that you always had.
Yeah, absolutely. The inner peace is a key to making it through tough times. When, like Kerry said, if we're going, when we don't, we need inner peace, and when we need that inner peace to stabilize us. If we don't have that inner peace, then when a traumatic event happens or something like that, we're going to be emotional. We're going to have the problems, the stress, the anxiety and things like that, which we're normally going to have that. But when that starts to overcome us, when it starts to control us, our emotions are controlling us. And when we have to make decisions, we have to make choices. Everything we do today is based on what we've learned, what we've done, what we've experienced, or what we've taken as authoritative, an authority on a subject or whatever. That's how we make our choices. And and when things are changing, and our environment is changing, and people are changing around us, the way that we have to live and the way we have to see things, we can either have a solid understanding that an inner peace, knowing that no matter what happens, there's going to be a direction. We're going to be able to do this. We may have to change some things. We're out of our comfort zone. We're not going to be as comfortable as we were. Maybe we may have to go in a new direction, and those things are unknown. There's no control. We've lost control. So we're either going to have peace in doing that, or we're going to be feeling the stress, and we're going to react with our emotions. And when we do that, we're going to make mistakes.
Let me bring up at this point, I like what you said, and so I think it's a good time to bring up a verse I think that should kind of overall give the theme of this. When the Apostle Paul said to the Philippians, he said, I've learned how to live with abundance, and I've learned how to live with great need. In fact, he said in 4:13, I've learned that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We like 4:13. We like to say I can do all things through Christ because we like to apply that to I can achieve my goal. I can do all things. I can be president. I can do all things. I can write a bestseller. I can do all things. That's not what Paul was talking about. Paul said, I've learned how to live with great need. I've learned how to suffer want. I've learned how to be hated and despised and rejected. And I've learned how to live in abundance. In fact, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Paul was saying that, you know what, you and I, we can do all this. Whether we live in a good time, a bad time, an uncertain time, or what looks like a certain time. Nothing's certain, obviously, because none of us, this wouldn't happen if our future was so certain. Nothing's certain. But Paul said, I've learned, and you and I can learn, we can do this. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. It's not a new direction for life. It's a new direction for our thinking, for our process. Because God has had us on the same path from the get-go, and that is to transform us into the image of Jesus Christ. So it's time to get that priority back. It's time to recognize our identity. It's time to re-embrace relationships on a deeper level, connect with people, put people ahead of projects, and have time for kids and have time for one another, have time for neighbors. It's time to reevaluate all that. Moving forward, let's live a successful life. Instead of trying to accomplish things successfully, let's live successfully. And I think that's what this is all about.
Yeah, that success is not acquiring things. Of course, that success is making sure that your family is fed, making sure you're fed, making sure that there's a roof over your heads and things like that, of course. But it's going forward, going through the forest blind with a peace and comfort, knowing that you're going to make it through the other side, rather than going through that forest with that uncomfortable feeling of the unknown, not knowing what, not being comfortable with your own mindset and that chaos in your mind, because you're going to trip, you're going to make a wrong step. Mm-hmm. It's having that assurance of knowing that you're not in control, but someone greater than you is. Mm-hmm. If everything we do that we had control of, how much of a mess would we really have? Because we really don't have that control. But if we did? What if we did? What if we had the control of our future? Man, look at what we've done so far.
We'd be at war.
Yeah, we'd be at war all the time. We'd be sitting here fighting right now.
Because our futures would conflict, and only one of us could have it.
Absolutely.
So we'd go to war over it.
Absolutely.
So, the important thing is, all right, we never were in control.
No.
We never will be in control. No. We're only in control of a couple of things, and that's the things we pay attention to, right?
Which dictates our behavior.
And that determines our behavior,
Absolutely.
Our choices. We have a control over that. So what we need to do is let God be God. Stop trying to tell God how to navigate our life. Accept Him, His plan, and embrace the real meaning of life, the real value, the real purpose of becoming more like Jesus. That needs to be all of our goal. That needs to be all of our priority. That will influence the rest of our lives in the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, life is nothing but a series of human interactions and our interaction with God. Mm-hmm. If you're not interacting with God, He's there. He's interacting with you in one way or another.
We're giving Him the silent treatment.
You're just giving Him the silent treatment. and therefore you're not getting the right information, and you're not going to be able to go forward in the right directions, and you're going to make mistakes that were unnecessary. Do we make mistakes otherwise? Absolutely. That's how we learn. We learn by failures, and it's not really failures. If you continue to keep trying, you haven't failed. You fail when you stop. You fail when you let your emotions get the best of you. You fail when you think you're in control and you've lost when you really don't have that control. You fail when you make the mistakes heading in that direction. So
We've been failing by trying to control.
absolutely, absolutely. That's
Where
exactly.
that's been the failure.
Absolutely.
So I'll wrap it up like this: we need to stop trying to be God by controlling and by fixing and avoiding. Satan said, "You can be as God. You make your own decisions." We need to stop that. We need to let God be God, and we become submissive. We become followers. We embrace that identity and enjoy the journey. Because yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we'll fear no evil. For God is with us. His rod and his staff, they comfort us. We're glad you joined us. Clay, talk about the...
We welcome your comments. Any questions you have or anything like that, you see the email address at the bottom of the screen. Give us a shout. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel, and you guys take
Suggest topics.
care. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll take suggestions. If there's got something that it makes no difference what it is. The only question, the stupid question is the only question you don't ask. That's what my grandfather told me. So there are no stupid questions. If you have something you want to talk about, you have something you feel, let us know about it, and we'll see if we can't put something together for you. We're going to try to make these short, and we're going to do a series of things like this right here and shorten them up a little bit. So let us know. Let us know you're out there, and take care of each other and take care of yourselves, and we will be back.
God bless. Thanks for joining us.